Hello, today we're going to talk about AWS, Amazon Web Services, and how essential it is to the internet. Obviously there's some services that run on the internet and some of those run on AWS. But which ones? And what happens if AWS has a catastrophic failure and we can't get to those sites? Which ones are going to be affected? Let's get into it. Number one, the most obvious site that runs on AWS is Amazon.com itself. This is an international website and receives an awful lot of web traffic. You buy some stuff from there, I'm sure. The Amazon Prime helps you buy even more. And all of that is powered by Amazon Web Services. Because the business of Amazon is very seasonal, there are times when they've got an overcapacity on their servers. They want the same cloud elasticity as the rest of us want in an internet service provider. When our site is busy, we want to spin up lots of new machines so that we can satisfy the demand. This is why Amazon Web Services is built in the way it is, for Amazon's own elastic response times to high demand on their shopping server. But what else is running on Amazon Web Services? If we look on Amazon Web Services case study website, one big name pops up straight away: Netflix. Netflix is a worldwide streaming service. It needs a lot of power, a lot of internet, and a lot of data going all over the place. They leverage the power of AWS to provide them with the storage for all of that data, all of that video, and also the CDN, the Content Delivery Network. This enables content to be delivered faster by using endpoints across the planet. So, if you're in the UK like I am, you might want to get your Netflix services from the London data center. But in order to stream it even faster to me, then it might come from a closer data center depending on my ISP. My ISP happens to be BT, so in this case it goes to London anyway. But in some parts of America, if you're in, say, New York, Amazon doesn't have a data center in New York, not yet anyway. Amazon's closest data center to New York is Virginia, but they might have an endpoint in New York in order to cache the output, making it quicker for those people there. That's what a CDN does. So that's two examples of some fairly large services that run on AWS. I also happen to know that Slack, the messaging service, also runs on AWS. And I'm sure there's countless other services that rely on AWS. But how can we find out which services are actually running? So the second way we can see is by looking at DNS records. This can be a bit laborious, but bear with me. I've looked up some DNS records for some well-known services, and I can confirm that Netflix is indeed on AWS. Of course, I looked up Amazon.com as well, obviously AWS. But interestingly, the UK tax services are also on AWS. I know that there's large amounts of government departments that do rely on AWS for their stuff, and the other provider in this area is Azure. Microsoft Azure's web cloud services. So both of those account for quite a lot of internal web services, those that you can't get to directly from the internet. What I mean by that is if you're doing data processing or examining with AI and things, you're not necessarily hosting a website that people can access, but AWS is used a lot for that. The third way that we can see what's using AWS is by consulting our friends over in Bath, UK, called Netcraft. They show us that approximately 8% of the worldwide traffic goes to Amazon, which, in the great scheme of things, isn't actually that much. But we are just talking about the websites. Like I said before, Amazon's also used for a lot of other stuff: internal development, AI, machine learning, data crunching. Those wouldn't be included in those stats, but would have an impact if your business is using it for those purposes. But the question is how essential is AWS to the internet? In that case, if internet outage occurs at AWS, then you might have your Netflix viewing disrupted, and you might not be able to see what your tax return is or file your corporate information. Fortunately, AWS has got a very resilient network. They also provide multiple options so that you can host your data and your website in multiple data centers that Amazon have. In Europe, you could host some of it in London and have a duplicate copy running over in Paris. This enables you to not only provide quicker data access for your French customers compared to your English customers, but also protects you in the event of an outage, say if the data center in London goes a bit wonky for a bit. So how essential is AWS to the internet? About 10% apparently. You might lose your ability to see Netflix, but it's only going to be limited to the area where Amazon's having the problem. So when somebody says most of the internet runs on AWS, you can ignore them. About 10% of the websites are on AWS, but that makes up for more than 10% of the traffic. Netflix alone creates a lot of traffic, but it's only one website. Either way, check out Netcraft for all the other hosting providers that bring you the internet. Till next time.